Hey up everyone! So continuing the Cannes Film Festival coverage, today's movie I'm going to be discussing on the channel is the latest film from Ali Abassi. He's the chap that gave us Border and Holy Spider. His latest film is probably his most mainstream outing that he's ever done because he's got some A-list talent on board and he's tackling a very ubiquitous public figure, Donald Trump, in a biopic drama called The Apprentice. Before we dive in, I just want to let you guys know I have done a written review for The Apprentice for Awards Buzz. So if you'd like to read my thoughts on The Apprentice, I left a link to that review in the video description down below. This was one of my most anticipated films in the Cannes lineup this year. Given its subject matter, it feels very timely given everything that's going on with Donald Trump, with his legal battles, as well as the upcoming US election. I was also excited for this film because it did seem like a legit award season contender, and I'll discuss its Oscar chances later in the video. It was always going to be a challenge to make a Donald Trump movie that pleases everybody. Right out of the gate, some people were just not going to appreciate a movie about one of the most ubiquitous and controversial public figures in recent memory. It kind of felt like a lose-lose situation for director Ali Abassi, because if he played things too safe and just made a conventional, safe biopic, then what's the point of it? But also, given Trump's fervent fan base and the fact that this is an election year where he is seeking re-election for the presidency, if he had made a film which salaciously attacked Trump's character, then a lot of Trump's followers would brand the film as Hollywood propaganda and a 2-hour cinematic smear campaign. But now that the film has had its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, what is the verdict on The Apprentice? While I wouldn't say this film is a generic, run-of-the-mill biopic, I do think that director Ali Abassi and screenplay writer BeReal Sherman erred on the side of caution. Abassi has taken an objective approach to telling Trump's story, remaining balanced and somewhat neutral to his subject. While I wouldn't say that Trump is painted in a favorable light throughout this film, it's not as scathing as you might have expected, which I think is a justified approach, because regardless of your feelings towards Donald Trump, whether you love him, whether you hate him, he is still a human being. He's complex and he's got layers to him, and this film does explore those layers. Played brilliantly by Sebastian Stan, the film spans through the 70s and 80s and charts Donald Trump's rise to prominence as a New York City property developer. It's a metamorphosis narrative where we watch the transformation of Trump going from an aspiring, ambitious businessman to the cold, power-hungry, and ruthless Trump that we know him as today. Before Donald Trump was the president of the United States, he was probably best known for the reality TV series The Apprentice, where Trump starred as himself, and he would fire candidates one by one for a coveted job in his company. I've never actually watched it, but I know it was on the air for like 14 seasons. But some of you may be surprised to learn that the TV series The Apprentice isn't even referenced in this film. The Apprentice of the title actually refers to Trump himself and the relationship that he had with his mentor, the unscrupulous lawyer Roy Cohn, played here by a bullish Jeremy Strong. Roy Cohn took Donald Trump under his wing and taught him his 3 rules of winning: attack, deny everything, and never admit defeat. You can also apply The Apprentice to another relationship that this film explores, which is the one between Donald and his brutish father, Fred Sr., played by Martin Donovan, who was very sparing of his love towards his kids and also set unreasonably high expectations for them. At a family dinner, he openly scoffs at his eldest son, Fred Sr., played by Charlie Carrick's occupation as an airline pilot, saying that he's an absolute joke and embarrassment to the family. Like as if you could just walk into the occupation of being an airline pilot. But it's clear that the 2 most influential male figures that Donald Trump had heavily contributed to his callous outer shell. I think this film will be most effective for those that aren't familiar with the early years of Donald Trump, because this movie is informative and it's entertaining. BeReal Sherman's screenplay covers all the highlights from the 70s and 80s, from Donald meeting, wooing, and marrying Ivana, played in this film by Maria Bakalova, to the tax abatement granted for his acquisition of the Commodore, which he turned into the Grand Hyatt, to the construction of Trump Tower, and also the death of his brother. But for those that have read Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, there isn't all that much new to learn here. I will say the strongest attributes of this film are the performances from Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong. I think what everybody wanted to know was if Sebastian Stan could stick the landing with a performance of Donald Trump. Could he bring depth and dimension to Trump's rambunctious public persona. Donald Trump is one of those media personalities with so many discernible mannerisms that he's very easy to do an impression of. But often, impersonations of him quickly descend into caricature. Like a tacky reverend who's dressed as Elvis in a Las Vegas chapel. But thankfully, Sebastian Stan crushed it with this performance. Sebastian Stan actually brings a surprising amount of restraint to his performance as Trump. Never does it feel like he's over-egging it or leaning too heavily on the signature Trumpy tics. Enhanced by some very convincing makeup, Stan simply lives in the character's shoes. His physicality is noticeably different. His shoulders are haunched, he often tussles his hair, his mouth is slightly pouty, and he nails the distinctive speech patterns of Trump by putting emphasis on particular words like totally. Sebastian Stan imbues him as a young man with ambition, confidence, and a fundamental desire to win. His relentless pursuit of model Ivana Zelnikova, played by Maria Bakalova, positions her as a prize to be won by Trump. I will say I do think that Maria Bakalova was slightly underutilized as Trump's first wife, Ivana, but Bakalova does a great job of breathing life into the character and making her more than just a trophy wife. Back then, she was just as much a part of the Trump brand as her husband was, and she put her interior design skills to great use by helping to create the instantly recognizable atrium of Trump Tower. Jeremy Strong also gives a ferociously good performance as Roy Cohn, a man whose actions were quite frankly abhorrent. I had zero knowledge of Roy Cohn before I watched this film, so if anything, I learned more about Roy Cohn than I did Donald Trump with this movie. Roy Cohn was not above verbal abuse or intimidation. This man was an absolute shark, but he was also a closeted gay man, which makes him even more fascinating because he would weaponize homophobia and threaten to out other gay closeted public officials if he didn't get what he wanted. But what's truly amazing about Jeremy Strong's performance is that when Roy Cohn contracts AIDS in the 80s, Strong actually manages to mine some humanity from this completely unsympathetic person. I couldn't help but feel bad for the guy in the latter half of this film, and that all comes down to Jeremy Strong's very nuanced, very raw portrayal of him. I really do believe that both Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong will be in contention for awards for their performances here. Another thing that I really liked about The Apprentice was Abassi's aesthetic for this film. His fly-on-the-wall style of direction coupled with the grainy, almost home camcorder celluloid gives the film a bootleg feel like it's from the era in which the film is set. Also, the soundtrack choices for this film do a really good job of telling the audience where we are in the timeline. So you've got pop songs like Yes Sir I Can Boogie and Blue Monday, letting you know whether we're in the 70s or the early 80s. As for negatives, I will say there were times where Gabriel Sherman's dialogue did feel like clunky foreshadowing of what we know is to come. There's a few instances where characters ask Trump, have you ever thought about running for office? And we even get like an origin story of Trump's famous slogan, Make America Great Again. But these nuggets of trivia are hardly anything revelatory. Also, the ending of this film was pretty conventional. I thought it would hit with more impact. The film wraps up with a sequence not unlike the ending of Revenge of the Sith, you know, where Anakin Skywalker puts on the Darth Vader helmet for the first time, because we're seeing doctors performing liposuction on Trump and like stapling the bald patch on his scalp, and you can't help but feel like you're witnessing the rebirth of the Trump we know today. But after all that's said and done, I couldn't help but feel a little bit shortchanged by this film's ending. I was kind of like, is that it? All right. Also, it has to be said that what is currently happening with Donald Trump in real life is far more interesting than anything that happens in this film. The fact that he's running for office again, the same year in which he's fighting a legal battle where he's already been convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business documents, is a far more audacious story that is playing out in real time than what this movie has to offer. It kind of reminds me of what the South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone said when Trump was elected president the first time. President Trump was such an easy target for mockery on the South Park show, like every week, but they quickly learned that nothing that they could do with the show was going to be anywhere near as funny as what Trump was actually doing in real life. Satire had become a new form of reality in American politics, so they decided just to sit back and let the clown in charge do his thing. So it does kind of beg the questions surrounding this new Apprentice film that if the drama surrounding Donald Trump in real life right now is far juicier than anything that actually happens in the film, then why bother watching it? Do I think The Apprentice will get any Oscar nominations? I do think The Apprentice will get some traction during award season, particularly for its performances for Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong. Maria Bakalova, I'm not as sold on. She maybe could get a Golden Globe in the supporting category, but we'll see. I also think maybe this film could get a nomination in the screenplay category for Gabriel Sherman, and hair and makeup as well. It's subtle, but you know, the Academy do often like seeing the transformation of actors into real life public figures. And yeah, even though it's subtle makeup, it is impressive. Do I think it get into Best Picture? I think there is a chance for it to get nominated for Best Picture, but right now I'm not putting it in my 10 because the general consensus about this film out of Cannes was that most people liked it but didn't love it, okay? Good, not great. Like, the performances, definitely awards worthy, but the film itself overall kind of plays things a little too safe. So I feel there's going to be, you know, better options for Best Picture, so it's a maybe for me, but right now I'm not predicting it for Best Picture. But what do you guys think? How many Oscar nominations is The Apprentice going to get? And in what categories? Let me know in that comment section down below. All right then, let's ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? Yes, I would. I'd happily watch this film again for the performances. It was entertaining, informative. It's not life-changing, but I did enjoy it, so yeah, I'd watch it again. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? Oh yeah, because this film is sure to be polarizing. I'm sure Trump supporters aren't going to particularly enjoy the way that he's portrayed in certain scenes, especially one quite harrowing scene towards the end with him and his wife Ivana. But I will say the film is very watchable. It's got strong performances from Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Strong and Maria Bakalova. Like, the aesthetic of it is very unique. It feels like something from the 70s, which is really cool. It's well written and it doesn't feel like a typical formulaic biopic either, which is refreshing. But I will say I still thought it played things a little bit too safe. And third question, what score to give out of 10? I had a good time watching this movie. I really enjoyed the performances, like that really kept me engaged, but at the end of the day, I kind of wanted something a little bit more searing. I'm not gonna say that it's toothless, but I feel like Ali Abassi probably could have gone a little bit more deeper with it, or could have just given the film a little bit more bite. But yeah, I still had a good time with it, so I'm going to give The Apprentice a 6.5 out of 10. But as always, guys, it's just one bloke's opinion. We'd love to hear your thoughts on The Apprentice. Have you seen it? If you have, what do you make of this film? What do you think of Sebastian Stan's Oscars chances? What do you have to say? Let me know in that comment section down below. If you have enjoyed the video, help me out with a little thumbs up button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.